contact, we spoke about that. Greetings vary across cultures. We spoke about that. Small talk. What is it? First, small talk is very important in building relationships and connections, right? So but small talk is so different across the world. There are certain things cannot be part of a small talk, like politics, money, what else? Finances. Religion. Religion, yeah, I said money. And, but then small talk could be very short, and it could be very America. How are you? How is the weather outside? You have to say, fine, I'm fine. You know, I just was run over almost by truck. I was run over. Karen asked me, how are you? I said, I'm fine. I was, but I mean, she doesn't need to know how I feel. We have to get going, you know? The show now must go on, right? Now, appropriate and inappropriate topics. When I just arrived in this country, you know, what we did in Russia in my day, I don't know about your day, I'm probably a little bit older, quite older. But in those days, in the communist Soviet Union, it didn't matter how much money you made because everybody made next to nothing. You know, the salary was pretty standard. Engineer, 120 rubles. I mean, if you are a professor, maybe 300 rubles. You cannot survive on either or, so it was not probably important. But, you know, first thing you meet someone and you say, what's your name? Where do you work? Third question, how much do you make? This is small talk. You know, small